Say very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to whomever in watching a different time period. I literally welcome you all to this another video session. So in this video analysis, we'll be discussing about what is auth bypass. It is very crucial, folks, to learn and how to mitigate that kind of authentication bypass attacks. And we'll be having all the clear understanding regarding what actually it is and how actually it works. Okay, so before going further, before having a discussion, I just want to make sure that please do a subscription to this channel, like the channel, share the channel ASAP for getting the latest update regarding any cyber affairs. Okay, so basically in this we'll be having a discussion regarding laptops which are made by Microsoft, Dell and Lenovo has been targeted by Windows Hello Earth bypass. That is the main topic which we'll be discussing, but before that we'll be having a discussion regarding what is authentication bypass. So authentication based bypass or authentication bypass attacks are unique in that attack does not steal credential but rather bypass the authentication process entirely. Once they circumvent the authentication, attackers can escalate the privileges and also move from one page to another page and steals or alert data or even downloads the malicious firmware. Okay, this is how the authentication bypass attack usually works. So what is authentication bypass vulnerability? So whenever we found this kind of vulnerability, what actually it is, that is the main intention, that is the main question which comes into your mind, right? So an authentication bypass vulnerability is a weak point, okay, in the user authentication process. Is cybercriminal exploiting such a weaknesses, circumvent authentication in order to gain access to an application or even we can say services or even devices. Okay, so they can then expand the attack and steal sensitive data and download malicious firmware or performs other harmful acts. Okay, and when we discuss about the mechanism or we can say subsystems which typically rely on passwords, digest authentication, security certificates, and so forth. Okay, so however, efforts in the development, design, or we can say in the development of application may eventually leave the cracks in the authentication mechanism. Okay, so it is through these overlooked cracks, okay, that the cyber criminals execute authentication bypass attacks. Okay, other circumventant authentication like we can say escalate privileges which eventually moves the additional page, or if we can say create a admin session in the http request, download harmful files and change system settings, or we can say view, copy, delete, alert, or override the important data, compromise a system admin account, gaining full control of application and access to infrastructure. Okay, so these are the different activities they can perform. So how exactly do attacker exploit authentication bypass vulnerability? Common methods which basically includes as like follow, like circumvent to login page by instead calling an internal page directly, and tampering with the request so that the application assumes the attacker can easily bypass or authenticate. So attackers may do these kind of bypass modifying and URL parameters, or manipulating a form for example utilizing SQL injection to go around the authentication, retrieve the content of the SQL database, and add, modify, or delete the records. Determining the session ID through, for an example, value instead cookies with that basically increases linearly. Okay, so best practices for mitigating the threat for authentication bypass attack, which basically includes that keeping up to date with the latest updates to the systems, applications, software, and also the networks, encrypting all the session IDs and cookies, okay, using the antivirus protection mechanism. Then after ensuring the authentication policies are robust technology and leak proofs, avoiding the exploitation of authentication protocol in a client side browser scripts, also validating user inputs on the server side, avoiding the use of external SQL interpret. Okay, so these are the different kinds of practices we can even do uh, to mitigate these kind of cyber attacks, which basically mean by authentications. So what actually the thing happened with this Linux, or you can say Dell, Lenovo and Microsoft devices. So according to the security researchers, bypassed Windows Hello fingerprint authentication. So just note fingerprint authentication here. Okay. So, fingerprint authentication on Dell Inspiro, Lenovo ThinkPad, and Microsoft Surface Pro X laptops. In the attacks, exploiting the security flaws found in the embedded fingerprint sensors. So, Blacking Intelligence Security researchers discovered the vulnerability during the research sponsored by Microsoft Offensive Research and Security Engineering (MORSC) to assess the security of the top three embedded fingerprint sensor basically been used for Windows Hello fingerprint authentications. So Blackface, Jesse D. Guru and Tim Terra's targeted embedded fingerprint sensors made by ELAN, Snippet and Goodix on Microsoft Surface Pro X. So Lenovo ThinkPad T14 and Dell Inspiro 15 are been the targeted devices. So all the test fingerprint sensors were matched on the chip MOC sensors basically. Okay, so with their own microprocessor and storage, allowing the fingerprint matching to be performed securely within the chip. So, however, while MOC sensors prevent the replay of the stored fingerprint data to the host of matching, and they do not even inherently stops a malicious sensor from making a legitimate sensor's communication with the host. Okay, so this would falsely indicate successful user authentication or replay previously observed traffic. Okay, between the host and the sensors. To counteract the attacks that would exploit these weaknesses, Microsoft basically developed a secure device connection protocol, which is basically known as SDCP. So this includes the ensure the fingerprint devices are trusted and healthy, and that the input between the fingerprint devices and the host are protected on the targeted devices. Despite this, the cyber security research successfully bypassed the Windows Hello authentication processes using man in the middle attack or MITM attack. So on all these three laptops, leveraging the custom Linux power Raspberry Pi 4 device. Through these processes, they used, okay, they basically used software, hardware, reverse engineering, and broke cryptography implementation of LANs in the STIPO sensors custom. Okay, so and a TLS protocol, and they have started we can say decoding the things. Okay, so they have started decoding and re-implementing the proprietary protocols. So when we discuss about what actually the attack surface scenario which has been used in MITM attack, so what actually it is. So MITM attack basically occurs when a third party interrupt communication between two parties. Okay, let me take my pen to explain you detailedly. So when a communication is being made by one to one, okay, so when a third party interrupt a communication between two parties, when a third party started interrupting communication between the two parties, okay, this can lead to unauthorized access or manipulation of the data. Protecting against MITM attacks, which basically involves using encryption, secure communication protocol, and also we can say being cause. Okay, so being caused with the things which we can use in this form of attacks. So when we discuss about item based mitigations, basically we need to encrypt, then after public key infrastructure we need to use. Okay, we can which basically involves, okay, then after securing the Wi-Fi connection, strong authentications we can use, regularly updating the devices, and also network segment, which basically plays a very important role because separate and secure different segments of the network basically limits to the scope of an attack in one segment which is even been compromised. Then after security awareness, so educating the user about the risk of midday attacks, and also encouraging the best practices such as verifying the authenticity and of the websites, and avoiding the unsecured networks. Use HSTS, which basically means by HTTP strict transport security, okay, to ensure the secure connection and prevent certificate pinging and monitoring and detection IDS systems, which basically employed in this. Okay, so as far as it has been considered that on Dell and Lenovo laptops, authentication bypass are achieved by enumeration. Okay, enumerating the valid IDs and enrolling the attacker's fingerprint using the ID of a legitimate Windows user. Okay, so the SAP sensors, which has been the targeted systems. Okay, so as we have discussed, right, they have using match on the chip commands to interface that. For the Surface devices whose ELAN fingerprint sensor had no STCP protection, and which is basically been used to clear text USB communication and had no authentication. Okay, so they poofed the fingerprint sensor after disconnecting the type cover containing the sensors and also send valid login response from the soft devices. Okay, according to the Microsoft, they did not they did a good job, you can say, designing the STCP to basically provide a secure channel between the host and biometric devices. Okay, but basically, unfortunately, the device manufacturer seems to misunderstand some of the objectives. Okay, though, as per the researcher basically said. So, additionally, SDCP only covers a very narrow scope of a typical device operations. While the most of the devices have sizable attack surface exposed, that is not been covered by SDCP. So, what is SDCP protection scenario? We'll be having the discussion regarding what is, if someone asks what is SDCP protection, we need to answer that, right? So what is actually the STCP protection is meant by when we discuss about the STCP, or we can say as per the additional coverage which has been given by Microsoft, which is also known as what, a secure device connection protocol. Okay, so basically this is the new protocol which has been circumvented by Microsoft in the recent news, because Microsoft basically said 3 years ago the number of user signing into the Windows 10 devices using Windows Hello instead of using a password grew to 689 0.9% to 68% 19 2021, right? So these kind of devices or protocol has been secure device connection protocol is been recently implemented after 2022. Okay, so this is how, folks, this is the recent news. I can say it is very informative video. I think you have done the thing which I have been required.